Morning, everyone. I think we've got it all sorted out now. And welcome to the webinar. This is Scott Bladorn with Focus on Energy. I'm here with Keith Williams today. Very happy to have Keith in here for this little presentation on the BPI updates that are really going into effect officially on January 1st. So I think everybody knows Keith. Been a staple in the home performance industry in Wisconsin for a long time, so we're really happy to have him in today. Currently, everyone is muted online. If you have questions, please use the chat button. You should see a little thing on the top of your screen, and you can put in your questions there. And we will take questions at the end of the presentation, so just type them in as you go, and we'll sift through them as we're going, and we'll make sure we can get to as many as we can at the end. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to Keith.
Good morning, everybody. Hope this won't be too painful. It'll be fairly short. So I'm going to be talking about the BPI 2014 BPI 1100, which is the home energy auditing standard, and then what supports that and how you fulfill the requirements of that standard is the BPI 1200 S215. And that is basically telling you how you fulfill the requirements of that standard. So, the home energy auditing standard is the basis for the energy auditing certification. So this is what was going to be required. You get the BA certification. It's to be used in conjunction with the 1200 best practices and analysis of the home. You'll notice that in the 1200 document, every section is going to have an opening phrase that says the auditor shall comply with requirements detailed in the BPI 1100. And that's why I put that 1100 up there, just let you know that that's the starting point of the standards, and then the 1200 is basically telling you how to process and the requirements to fulfill the 1100. So, the major changes in the BA standard used in the 1200 is going to be, as far as for you guys out in the field, is going to be the testing equipment required for doing the combustion safety testing, the gas leak testing, evaluation, and in the building. We have combustion safety testing changes, so whatever you've done in the past as far as combustion safety, pass-fail levels, that has changed, and then the indoor air quality and ventilation changes. So, nothing is not changing. There we go. So the testing equipment. The main thing in testing equipment is the CO measurement equipment. You need to have a combustion analyzer. Has the capability of measuring CO levels from 0 to 2,000. Capable of displaying digitally air-free CO measurements, okay, which is different from the past. Or it has to be able to display a CO as measured and O2 levels. The reason for that, if you go with the O2 levels, you can actually do a mathematical calculation using the CO level and the O2 level to calculate what the air-free number is. Also, what they've added this year is that the combustion analyzer CO equipment you're using must have either an internally or external nitric filter on it. There's a specific reason why they do that, but that filter, so you have to check with the product that you have, check with BACREC or Testo to find out if your CO combustion analyzer has an internal filter or external filter. Please note that that filter has to be changed periodically, and there are color codes on those filters to let you know when it has to be changed. If you're going to do a manual calculation for air-free, if your combustion analyzer doesn't have that capability of doing it, there is a formula that gives you the process for calculating your air-free. just so you know that on the Trade Ally website, there is a section in there called Infield Tools, and there will be a calculator already in that tools inventory, where all you have to do is enter your measured CO number and your O2 number, and that will give you your air-free. Unless you want to do it mathematically and use your own calculator, this will be available for you to do. The nitric oxide filter, this is one that you can attach to your CO tester. You can purchase these. I think they run somewhere between $50 to $70 a filter, but you can either have it attached when you send your monoxers in for calibration, or you can purchase the filters themselves and attach them to your hose line closest to your monoxer before the wand. So it is attached to your combustion, and then it gives you a little indicator on there, a color code indicator when that monoxide filter has to be changed. So this is an add-on that you have to have onto your testing equipment if it doesn't have one built in. Combustion gas detector, a little bit of a change on that. I'm still actually struggling with BPI and why they're going this route, but it has to have a variable tick rate based on gas concentration levels. That's normal, what you've had in the past. The big change is, according to these standards, it says you have to have a digital display of percentage of low explosive limit, LEL, and provide an alarm when detecting combustion gas concentrations exceeding the 10% LEL number. Why they had to go that route, I'm not quite sure, but it just means that there aren't many of those products available on the market. One I did find out there is by Sensit, the Sensit HXG2D gas tester detector. This runs around $350 to $375, but that is available on the market. But the only one I found so far that meets the requirements that BPI is listed. Combustion safety testing. What's been removed from the standards from the past is you no longer have a draft test on your combustion appliances, so you don't have to worry about outdoor temperature and draft pressure numbers based on the type of equipment you've got, so there is no draft pressure pass or fail for that. Also, combustion appliance zone depressurization limit. There is no pass-fail on the depressurization limits. Although there is no pass-fail, you still have to put the CAS in worst-case depressurization and run your tests, but there is no pass-fail on depressurization limits, so you don't have to worry about that any longer. Limit changes for furnaces, boilers, and water heaters. The seal level will be measured as air-free. For ovens, the seal level will be evaluated as measured. So that's a change in the standards, is that now no longer is it as measured for the furnace and water heater and boiler, it's air-free. The levels that are acceptable is also changed, and it's listed in the standards under Table 1, which is the levels for the air-free number and the as-measured number. You'll see that furnaces, all categories of furnaces, 400 parts per million air-free, boilers, 400 parts per million air-free, and you've got your water heater, which is only 200 parts per million air-free, and then your oven or boiler, 225 parts per million as measured. So you won't be doing the air-free number on that one. Action levels have also changed. It's listed in detail on the table G1 of Annex D for spillage and for carbon monoxide in combustion appliances. Okay, so it will tell you specifically what your action levels have to be based on spillage and then also on sea level. The CO level just says whether it's acceptable or unacceptable and what your action steps have to be for that. So that has changed dramatically from what it used to be on your action levels. and different CO levels. Important note, all spillage and CO tests on a furnace, boiler, and water heater must be conducted under worst-case depressurization. So you have to get the building into worst case first and make sure you've got that documented, and then do your CO measurement and your spillage. CO measurements of undiluted flue gases shall be taken at the 5-minute operation. So after 5 minutes, you will be testing for CO. Furnace and boiler for spillage, it's at 5 minutes of the main burner operation, but note that water heater spillage is to be assessed at 2 minutes of main burner operation, which that means is that you have to have no spillage after 2 minutes of operation. Also means that you don't do your CO test until after 5 minutes of operation, that you can take your measurements for your CO. So in the standards, you're going to see that they list it as warm chimneys or warm vents and then cold vents. Water heaters will always be classified under the warm vent category. If you have a furnace by itself, a reduced draft furnace hooked to a chimney, no water heater hooked to it, it comes under the 5-minute, the cold vent, which both of those are going to be at the 5 minutes for CO and for spillage. The 1200 standard does provide a specific procedure protocol for placing the house in worst case depressurization. It's slightly different than what's been done in past trainings as far as door closures and door setups and putting it in. So I do recommend that you take a look at that protocol that's in the standards for getting the house into worst case depressurization. In the near future, we're going to have it in the in-tools on the website for the trade allies, but it's not ready to go yet, not until I get some things resolved with BPI. But just take a look at that and see what those steps are for getting the house into worst case. Ventilation, the BAS, or commonly known as the Building Airflow Standard, has been eliminated. You no longer have to do the calculations for building tightness limits and as far as the BAS airflow goes. But you will have to use the ASHRAE 62.2 2013 standard to come up with building airflow or indoor air quality and ventilation requirements. Again, there are two 62.2 calculation tools available to assist in determining the indoor air quality and ventilation needs. What you're going to have to be able to do, though, is have the information available, which is the square footage, the number of occupants in the house. You're going to have to measure kitchen fan and bathroom fan CFM flows, which means you're going to have a flow hood and a digital gauge and come up with the existing flow rates are for those exhaust fans. And you're also going to have the blower door number, CFM number of the building to put into the calculations in order to come up with what the ventilation requirements are, meet the 62.2 standards. These standards are available. Go to the BPI website. If you just go to bpi.org, it's going to come up with a website that's for consumers. Up in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see where it says BPI Pro Site. Click on that little yellow window, and that'll bring you to the BPI. And then click on Documents, and then go to Standards. And both those standards are right there for download. So, in a nutshell, that's everything as far as the changes are for the BPI standards. Just a side note, if you plan on getting recertified this year or going for U certification, definitely know the 1200 standards forward and backward, because that will be used as the primary tool for evaluation for certification. So, thank you, and I guess we'll answer the questions.
Yeah, so please feel free to find that chat button on your screen and type in any questions you might have We do have one regarding if there's a list of new equipment needed. If you know if there's BPI provides a list of new equipment that people are going to need.
No, BPI does not make the list of the equipment. They just put down the specifications. We've been asking them, and they said no, just as long as it meets these specs. No other questions?
What does air-free mean?
What does a question we got from Paul Davis? What does air-free mean? That means they want to know the amount of carbon monoxide that's in the combustion gas before any dilution air. So in the combustion process, water heaters and furnaces, as they take in combustion air into the burn system, there's excess oxygen that's with that in those flue gases. So they want to figure out how much oxygen's in that because it actually dilutes the actual CO level. So air-free means no dilution air in the CO.
Yes, the presentation will be available later. We're recording it right now, and it will be available on the website in a few days.
On the, there's a question regarding the water heater and the 5 minutes and the 2 minute issue. The water heater comes under the warm chimney. It's 5 minutes for the CO, and I'm going to check the standards right now, but it's 2 minutes for the draft pressure. Seven 7.9.3 in the standard says spillage assessment and CO measurements in domestic water heaters or warm vent. Spillage shall be assessed at 2 minutes of main burner operation. CO measurement of undiluted gases shall be taken at 5 minutes of main burner operation. And that's on page 12, section 7.9.3 regarding that water heater. There's a question here about the 62.2 ventilation requirement with a continuous running bath fan and air cycler switch. And I'm just reading the question over right now. Readily accessible. I'm not going to be able to answer the whole question on that one as far as the readily accessible and opportunity labeled override switch. Let us look into that and find out what the specifics are that with the 62.2.
Might be a good question for the regional managers to kind of get something out there to clarify exactly what's done.
Any suggestions, changes going to affect any QCI standards? Maybe Chad can help me answer that one. The question is, are these changes going to affect any QCI standards?
We are working on that right now.
It probably will, but that'll come out fairly soon once they finish digesting all these changes and how to put them into the standards. Any suggestions what to do when you cannot measure the kitchen fan?
This came up in the 62.2 yesterday, and there were several suggestions. One was to look at the specs of the fan. The other was to try and create some sort of baffle device, because they recognize that they're all really difficult shapes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then they said they would look further into a possible further solution.
Yeah, BPI does have in the standards that if at all possible, use the rated flow that's in the specs for that fan, but they're not available, then you need to measure that flow. So, does Focus have any buy-in programs set up for this test equipment? Best of my knowledge is no. Right. Will we be dispensing new data collection forms for this and Snug Pro in the days to come?
Yes, we have one already created. The final touches, it's actually under review right now, and it will be available when this goes into effect January 1st.
All right. Yep. So the Focus will be sending out the new data collection form by January 1st.
There'll also be a 62.2 calculator.
Yeah, that we already mentioned that, the 62 calculator. Also on that infield tools, there's a 62.2 calculator. There's a calculator for the conversion of CO measured to air-free. There's also a calculator on there for, there's two or three different other calculators on there. One is average R values for insulation. And but take a look at that on the website. Those will be up there on there. So another question about Snug Pro.
Yes.
There's a question: can we use an older monoxide that doesn't show air-free as long as we do the calculation? Yes, as long as your older monoxide does give you an O2 level or an oxygen percentage. Give you an example, your monoxide 3. Monoxide 3 only gives you air as measured CO, and it does not display an oxygen percentage. So if you have a monoxide 3, that piece of equipment will not work to get you your air-free number. There's a statement here: can we give an example of air-free CO meters that meet the specs? Any of your combustion analyzers, your Firite back racks, and there's a number of them also by Testo. I would suggest before you purchase one, contact either back rack or Testo and find out that that piece of equipment you're going to buy does have a digital display of your air-free number.
And we got a note here from Nat Poplinski. Just wanted to remind everyone that if you're testing in using the current BPI standards, that you should test out in those same standards that you tested in with.
There's a question here: can I explain cold and warm vents? The answer is no. That's something that the BPI threw into the standards, and I don't know how they came up with it or what it is, but they just said there's two categories of vents: warm vents and cold vents, and water heaters come under the warm vent category. Make and model number would be helpful. Make it a model number of what?
Probably the monoxide. I think that's hard for Focus to come right out, and Focus wouldn't want to seem like you were promoting any specific brand over another, so that might be something you'll have to look into on your own.
This is Chad. There was a question regarding the air cyclers, the smart exhaust air cyclers, and per the session we had just a few days ago on ASHRAE standards, you are allowed to use an existing fan with the air cycler. And it may not meet all of the exact noise efficiency specs, but the client does not have to purchase a new fan. You can use an existing.
There's a question here. I want to know if I can give reasoning behind the air-free decision. I understand from a practical point why BPI went this route. I do not know, but I do know it's a standard that's gone across the nation that the combustion gas appliances that are used in a chimney to vent out have to be tested under air-free. But I'll research that more with BPI and find out if I can find out anybody give me inside information on why they went the air-free route.
On another note from Nat, he says that we're currently working on getting discounts for some of the additional tools. So that's something that hopefully, I know in the past we've been able to do that on blower doors. So hopefully, moving forward, we might be able to do that on some of this other equipment as well.
And the last question I've got here, can the TechTite software be acceptable for the 62.2 inputs? My understanding is yes. The TechTite, the new version of the TechTite program does have built-in all the requirements and give you the information for the 62.2. So you have that. You have the worksheet or spreadsheet that's on the in tool. You can also go to RED, which is residentialenergydiagnostics.com, their website, Rick Kargs. He does have a free downloadable calculator for the 62.2 also.
Just to add to that, we received a really nice email from Rick letting us know that his site will be available. That calculator will be and will remain free. He's working on an even updated version with the newer standards, but that one will remain, and that was one of the reasons why we decided to allow it in the program. And just remember, when you guys are filling that out, we have to see some sort of compliance with this, so we are requesting a screenshot of that. Once you've filled in your information, you've gotten the answer. Similar with the Excel sheets, the screenshot is probably going to be better because if everyone sends a full Excel sheet with all the formulas in it, that's going to be a lot of space on hard drives for saving. So try to use screenshots. If any of you aren't aware how to do it, you click on the screen and you hit Alt Print Screen, and then you have basically saved it. And then you can go into a Word doc and hit Control V as in Victor or paste, and it will paste that screenshot into the program for you.
That looks to be all the questions. Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Keith, for coming out. If you guys have further questions, I'm sure you can direct those to your regional managers, and you know, they're always a great resource. And if they don't have the answers, they'll probably call Keith and ask him for the answers. So that's always available. Thank you all, and take care.